This is the Randi Rhodes Show on 960 KNEW and online at 960KNEW.com.
We're the NRA, and we'd like to inject some perspective into the debate on guns. Recently, President Obama's been harping about people he thinks of as victims of gun violence.
This is about doing the right thing for all the families who are here that have been torn apart by gun violence.
Well, we'd like to shift the discussion to where it belongs, with the future victims of gun laws. The very people our friend Asa Hutchinson so movingly spoke about.
If you're a farmer 30 miles from town and you want to transfer a shotgun to a neighbor, you've got to go 30 miles into town.
You heard right. Unless we put a stop to this gun control madness, there'll be people, innocent people, who may have to drive 30 miles to file paperwork to sell a gun. But let's put a face on their suffering. Here's one of the people who'd be affected. What's your story, friend?
Yeah, I gotta live 30 miles outside of town. You know, just in case the meth lab explodes. Hey, I'm civic-minded that way. But if I transfer just one of my assault rifles to my cousin, who also happens to be my wife, I'd have to drive the whole way into town. That carries huge risks for a person like me who has several outstanding warrants. So where's the compassion in all of this?
Please support the NRA. Don't sacrifice an entire generation to background checks and the potential inconvenience they can cause. Don't think that 30-mile drives will always be someone else's. Next time it could be yours.
That's a huge burden on citizens.
Unbelievable. This is their argument, okay? It's just like the gay marriage argument was. Well, procreation, right? The gun argument is you might have to drive into town to transfer ownership of your weapon from yourself to your neighbor. That's not an argument. I'm sorry, but this is what money can buy. It can buy a guy like Asa Hutchinson, who seemingly is a normal and sane, getting on the TV and saying insane things for money. That is what it does.
I think in general concept, Americans, everybody would like to see effective background checks
Yes,
so that
we
criminals
would.
do not have access to firearms. But as a practical matter, and I read the bill last night, if you're a farmer 30 miles from town and you want to transfer a shotgun to a neighbor, you've got to go 30 miles into town, find a federal licensed firearm dealer, fill out the paperwork, pay the fee, have the background check, and then you have a responsibility to keep those records for inspection by the government. And that's a huge burden on citizens. So my look at that is, I don't know whether that's going to pass or not.
Wow. A former Arkansas congressman whose brother was a former Arkansas senator who is now a lobbyist with a wife that he dumped after 29 years to marry a staffer who is now a lobbyist at the same firm with cousins and brothers that are all in the Arkansas state legislature, is going to be the paragon of virtue in this argument and tell us that the argument against background checks or the argument against, having to transfer title of an AK-47 is too cumbersome for Grizzly Adams, who lives 30 miles outside of town. This is the argument that all of those brainiac politicians in his family, all these lobbyists in his family, all these state and legislators, this is what they discussed at their Easter dinner, and this is what they came up with. It's an undue burden to have to drive 30 miles. It's an undue burden to have to bury your child. That's the undue burden, Asa.